So in this video, I want to talk to you about counting calories to lose weight. And I want to point out 3 different things that I see most people do wrong when it comes to counting calories, using tools like MyFitnessPal or using different mobile apps or spreadsheets. Whatever the actual tool is, at the end of the day, they're all serving one purpose, which is building awareness about your food intake, which is awesome. I'm a big fan of quantifying, and I'm a big fan of looking at the data, making sure that you know what's going in your body so you can be in control over that intake. But having said that, a lot of people still make a couple of critical mistakes which we want to dive into in this video. And by the way, if you're new around here, my name is Mario Thomas. If you'd like to learn more about exercise, nutrition, how to build healthy habits, how to make this a sustainable lifestyle, consider subscribing below. Also, make sure to hit that bell icon to get notified when new videos come out. And now let's dive into it. Now, the number one thing most people do wrong when they start getting into counting calories to lose weight, when they start looking at their food intake, is that they rely too much on the numbers they get from an online calculator. You see, when you use an online calculator, there's a lot of averages, there's a lot of generic things happening with that calculator, and then you get a certain number that might have you, let's say, lose body fat on paper, but then as you start applying that number, you start seeing that you're either maintaining or even gaining. Because we'll have individual differences, and there's a big component of subconscious activity that we have throughout the day, which is also called NEAT, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis, that can vary up to 1,200 calories. So if you get, let's say, a number from a calculator that says you should eat about 2,400 calories to lose weight, well, that actually could put you at a maintenance instead of having you lose weight. And another factor here is also as you progress through the diet, those numbers will change. You're no longer the same human being if you lost 20, 30 pounds already, and now your metabolism has adjusted a little bit, or if you are actually coming off from back-to-back dieting, and if you've done something extreme, those numbers could be drastically different. I've seen this with clients, having done client work for 5+ years. I've seen drastic differences in what the calculator predicts and what's happening in the real world. And this is why it's so important to take those numbers only as a starting point, only as an educated guess, and then from there on start to make adjustments based on how your body is responding. This is why it's critical to actually measure your body weight very regularly so you can see if the intake you're eating is actually intake that's leading to your goal. And this is really important. Don't buy into what the calculator is telling you. Only use it as a starting point, and then from there on, use data as feedback to adjust that so you actually are moving toward your goal and that your intake is tailored to what your body will respond to. Now, the second thing I see most people do wrong when it comes to counting calories to lose weight, and a mistake that I personally made myself, is ignoring the internal hunger and satiety signaling and only relying on the numbers. You see, when you do this, you're basically outsourcing all the decision making related to your food intake to the app, whether it's MyFitnessPal or a similar app like that. You're basically not using your internal system at all. You're not looking to see, are you hungry? Are you full? Do you need to shift more calories to the next day? Do you need more calories today? You're just relying on the numbers that the app tells you. And what happens over time is that you build up dependency on the app and you don't have that internal system. And then over time, as you want to move away from the app, or you simply end up in a situation where you can't use the app for some reason, you have nothing to fall back to. And this actually turns into a big problem over time because you start destroying your relationship with food, and it becomes something where that tool initially was a very helpful tool to get you started to build some intake awareness. Now it's becoming something that you're 100% dependent on. You can't rely on anything else. And moving forward, long term, you basically are stuck in a situation where you have to use the app to regulate your intake, or you have no other option. So you don't want to forget your hunger and satiety signaling. You still want to auto-regulate your intake to some extent, where those signals, that internal system that you have, still gets developed over time as you're using the counting calories as almost like an audit to make sure that the internal signals that you're getting are somewhat correct. And this is going to really set you up in a position for long term, where long term you can move away from tracking your food intake. Now, the third thing most people do wrong when it comes to counting calories, and one that you need to know, and I think this is actually the biggest problem with tracking calories in general, is that most people don't move away from tracking calories. And when you get into it, it's such a good tool to have. It's such a great tool that when you actually get good at it, you start realizing what's inside of the food. You're using it to build awareness. You're start seeing that, okay, well, a slice of pizza is 400 calories, so I can't just eat the whole thing because the whole thing is 4,000 calories. I have to manage my intake a little bit. So these little epiphanies that you have as you start tracking your food intake are great because you learn what's really inside of food. So it's a great tool. It's awesome to put those training wheels on and start learning how to ride the bicycle, but eventually you have to take the training wheels off. And most people never do because they love the comfort zone. They love that feeling of certainty that they have, but it requires a lot of micromanagement and it's not necessarily sustainable. I mean, you're going to track for the rest of your life, right? So you have to start looking at it from a perspective of, am I investing unnecessarily too much energy into this, and can I move away from this into a more habitual approach, which is where I'm at right now and where I have been for many years now. And this is actually where I get my clients these days. If the clients are coming from a background of tracking and measuring and they understand their food intake, we actually move away from that into a more intuitive approach where they can start losing body fat through intuition, through making good food choices and building good food habits, and then staying lean somewhere around 10, 12, up to 15% body fat without relying on tools like MyFitnessPal. And I think this is the ultimate goal for all of us. You don't want to have those training wheels on all the time, especially if you're a busy entrepreneur professional. You want to free up that mental bandwidth for other higher leverage things in your life so you can move your life forward instead of micromanaging the number of grams of almonds or rice or whatever you had this day. So you want to move away from this. You want to start automating and thinking how you can actually scale this to make sure that the other areas of your life can now get the attention that they deserve so you can keep moving forward. Also, one thing that's going to help you with this, actually, I'm going to leave a video here at the end that's going to dive into more nutrition habits that are going to help you on your journey to get lean. So definitely check out that. If you enjoyed this video, definitely hit that like button below. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to see your support. Also, if you want to work with me as your mentor, I'm going to leave a link in the description below. You can find more details about that, and I will see you in that next video.